Well, good afternoon now, everyone. I'm Phil. I'm from GPS Sprayers. We are the agents for Gloria spraying equipment in the UK. So we supply all the Gloria equipment to Barratine. Quick show of hands, who uses Gloria sprayers? Okay, good. That's good news. So you'll be familiar with this. This is the 5 litre metal sprayer. It's a 505. It's a stainless steel tank. Look, it's pretty basic tech. There's no electronics in it. There's no chemicals in it. It's just, as it is there. So it's basic engineering, and everyone can kind of service what they need to service to get it working if something goes wrong. But I think the biggest thing to note is we've got a lot of customers who have these sprayers, and they've looked after them well. Probably a bit too well, in my opinion, in my line of business. And they've kept them for 25 years, the same unit. They've changed some O-rings, they've changed some seals, they've done all that kind of stuff, and they've still got the same unit they're spraying with, relatively regularly. Their key tip, and I would support this, is to basically rinse your sprayer out after use as regularly as you can. So whether that be after a job, at the end of the day, at the end of the week. If you rinse it out with warm soapy water, that reduces the chance of anything going wrong, basically. It takes away any of the sediment that might be building up in the bottom of the tank. It clears out the hose and the triggers and the lance. So that would be my number one simple tip. That will prolong the life of your sprayer, no end. The other thing to kind of look at in terms of maintenance, there's only one moving part in this sprayer, and that's the piston rod in the pump chamber. So I can unscrew the top here to show you that. If I remove this from the pump chamber, you probably won't be able to see it at the back here, but I'll show it to the guys at the front. Right, there's a fair bit of grease, yeah, surrounding the O-ring there, right? Now this has come straight from the factory, so Gloria grease these up before they send them out to us. They will stay greased for months, but just check them. If you're getting a lot of resistance when you're pumping down and it feels really stiff and you're not getting that type of smooth pump, then it could be that you haven't got enough grease in the actual pump chamber. So that will make your life a bit easier because you won't have to pump so hard, and it will prolong the life of the O-ring at the bottom of the piston rod. So therefore, you'll get more life out of it too. So that's the simple maintenance. There isn't much more to do in terms of the maintenance. Just look after it. If you've got it in the back of a van, then you make sure that it's not crashing around. It's strong, but it's not bomb-proof. There's a couple of things that can kind of get damaged that we can all replace. So the plastic cowling is rigid. It's hard. It's tough. It's strong. But if it gets dropped, it can snap and break. These bits are all available separately. You can pick up extra bits for these, extra bits for those. We can fit them at GPS, or we can talk you through it over the phone. It's not a problem. A key thing to note here at the bottom is the brass elbow. Okay, this plastic cowling protects that brass elbow. If you're doing a job and you drop it at a weird angle, or and the plastic is broken, you could actually drop it onto this elbow here. If that gets knocked, then it might actually compromise the tank. You might get a break in the seal, and if you start to pump it up, you might notice there's a hissing noise or there's a leak coming through that sort of bottom elbow there. Okay. Now it's quite simple to fix that, but you do need one of these. So extra long screwdriver with a flat head. You can put your screwdriver down into the tank where there's a flathead screw that connects the elbow, which you can tighten up with your hand underneath here, and that should solve the problem. It's very rare that you'll have a problem with the actual tank. The issues will be either at the connecting end in the brass housing, or at the top end where the pump chamber sits on top of the sprayer. Everything else should be pretty safe. So top tips in terms of troubleshooting, that there's not an awful lot that can go wrong, but you can obviously have blockages, leaks, and you can also lose pressure in the tank, or you can have trouble creating pressure. So the leaks are simple. You can go around the different pinch points of the sprayer and tighten things up, whether it be the lance, where it connects to the trigger, like that. Make sure that's tight, and there's an O-ring in there as well. That might be compromised. If you tighten that up, that creates an airtight lock. In the trigger itself, in the handle, okay, that comes away from the hose, and there's a filter in there that not a lot of people know about, and that's something you can check as well. You can clean that out if you ever get blockage. That's a good one. And then, and like I said, at the bottom of the base, bottom of the tank, the brass elbow, make sure that's tight. If there's any leakage, you'll know about that pretty quickly. Yeah, so sort of the problem, apart from that, leakages and blockages, might be around pressure. So can you generate pressure through the pump chamber? You know, is this piston rod giving us that nice hiss and that kind of resistance? And if it isn't, then one, it could be a problem with the O-ring here. It might be worn or degraded, so you'd want to replace that. And two, there is another sort of mechanism in here. It's got a foot valve poppet at the end of here. I won't take it out because there's a spring in it and it will fire that way and I won't be able to find it, and then it will ruin the whole thing. But I can show it to anyone who wants to see it in detail afterwards. You can replace that. It's a small little foot valve poppet, and that also helps create that kind of suction in order for the tank to be charged. So check that. If you're struggling with pressure in the tank, so you're pumping up, you know that you've got that kind of gas coming through, or the air coming through the pump chamber, but your tank isn't charging and you can hear a hissing noise, then you've got to check your seals. And the seals you've got to check are simple. The ones at the bottom in there and the one at the top. And it's very simple to replace the seals. They just roll on and roll off. Provided you know what you're looking for, you can actually just go ahead and do it yourself. It's not very technical. It will take you 10 minutes and your sprayer will be back up and working. Seal kits are available, and that covers everything you need across the whole sprayer and more, and spares. So that is kind of it. It's as simple as it gets. Does anyone have any questions, or does anyone want to, go ahead? Yeah.
When you grease the piston pump, what's the best grease to use so it doesn't degrade the O-ring?
Anything. To be fair, you can use Vaseline. That's absolutely fine. Yeah.
I've had to replace the black top, the plastic.
Yes.
You just throw it in boiling water.
Yeah.
And then carefully after that, you've got to stretch it over the neck of the cylinder. Have you got any tips on how to do that?
So yeah, what we do, they're fitted in the factory, and obviously they heat the plastic up and they slot them on, they let it cool, and it snugs around the top. We have a heat gun, and we've actually got a contraption that fits the neck of the sprayer that we've made, and we use a big mallet that we can smash it down. So we've only got one of them, but we can certainly do it for you. If you send it back, we can put it on. But the first thing to do would be to heat it up. Boiling water is a good idea, or if you do have a heat gun, use that, and that should help. But these are tricky to get on, and you can break them by.
It's easier. It's the top one.
Yeah, exactly. They are tricky, but we can certainly do it.
In terms of the sprayers, the nozzles, what nozzles have you got available?
We've got loads of different nozzles available. So the most common one used in the pest control industry is this sort of 80-degree size 2 flat fan, but we can change the degree to 110 or go right down, narrow to 50, and then the size of the aperture is also key to the liquid, the viscosity of the liquid that you're spraying. So if it's sort of insecticide or pesticide, which is generally quite watery, this will be fine. But if you ever had anything sort of more gloopy or more viscous, you'd want a bigger aperture so that when you push the pressure through through the or push the liquid through the sprayer, you'd have a better hole to fire it out of, basically. And we've got all of those ranging from size 0.03 up to 15, which is usually used for stuff like bitumen emulsion, so really thick, sticky liquid. But they're all available. All you have to do is ask for them. But this is typically the most useful one and the most widely used in pest control. That's all right. Well, there's loads of different varieties of this, by the way. There's obviously the 5 litre, there's a 10 litre, but quite interestingly, there's one, if you didn't like pumping things up and you had tennis elbow or a dodgy shoulder, you can actually get them with an inbuilt Schrader valve. And if you have a compressor or an airline, it can charge it for you. So if you're doing a lot of spraying or you're on site, it has got an airline, then you can actually charge it to save yourself time and energy and effort, and that can either be in the 5 litre version or the 10 litre version. So do ask for them if you're interested in it. A little bit more expensive, but it saves you having to pump it up if you didn't want to. If you like pumping stuff up, this is perfect for you.
One last thing, just so, I'm not sure if everyone's aware, but the 176 no longer available, the parts aren't all interchangeable.
Well, actually, funny you should say that. The pump chamber is. So that is the same.
The top cap, as Chris
Oh, not the top cap, no. The tank is slightly thinner and it's slightly taller, so the plastic elements of it are sort of different, and the way it connects to the actual hose is different. But the actual pump chamber, which is an expensive bit of brass to replace, is. So if you had the outer workings of a sprayer 176, you could, and this was broken, you could buy a new one of these and it would rejuvenate it.